Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show, the final Rotoworld Football Show before draft weekend, the final Rotoworld Football Show before the regular season. I'm Patrick Daugherty, joined by Denny Carter, Kyle Dvorchak. We just got to spend the week in person together, and sure, now we all hate each other, but I think it was still worth it.
We haven't texted or spoken since, and I can't stop crying. But other than that, it went great.
No, it did go great. We've got the podcast in person the other day, which is amazing. Yeah. But we were podcasting back on StreamYard. I was made fun of saying StreamYard. I'm like a Midwestern freak, apparently. Yard.
I don't know. That sounds like a very Yinzer way of saying
it. It is very Yinzer. I'm not a Yinzer, by the way. I'm a true Midwesterner. By the Pennsylvania is not the Midwest. I don't care what they tell you.
You know what the problem is with Pat's pronunciation issues is that he thinks too much. He's a smart guy. He's a very smart guy, but that's
he was detriment
problem.
Sometimes he can't stop thinking.
I would appreciate if Pat just turned off the brain and said StreamYard.
Denny has witnessed me curled in the fetal position in the exact corner of a room, obsessing over a player's name pronunciation or a guest, and the guest's like, I don't even care. Say however you want.
Call me anything.
I'm just silently sobbing because I want to say their name perfectly. It's from a whole life of being a Daugherty who's called Daugherty. It's Daugherty, folks. How hard could it really be? This weird Irish ethnic name with 7,000 syllables, or not syllables. What do you call those?
Vowels?
Letters?
No, not vowels. There's a lot of vowels in my name too. Daugherty. What do you call those?
Silent letters?
No,
sounds like you're describing
syllables. I am describing syllables.
Syllables.
It's been a long week.
Even at producer Adam is in chat like, Pat, it's syllables. So where are you looking for?
I'm cracking up. We
need to call a doctor.
I do. I am actually at the doctor. They've asked me several times to turn off my webcam and to not be podcasting.
Have you guys considered having a simple last name like Carter?
No, we have not. Yeah, Kyle's. You think Daugherty's hard?
Yeah, Pat, I've worked here for like 3 years or 4 years, and in year 2, you were still asking me how to say it.
Yeah, Dvorchak. You got to Dvorchak. You got to hit the thing with any complicated last name. You just got to hit it hard. That's why I tell people with Daugherty, just don't even just hit it hard. Daugherty, you are blast. You see the tiniest hole ever between the right guard and the center, and you just blast it. Speaking of the running game, we have not talked about Jonathan Taylor being shut down for the first 4 games of the season. We haven't talked about the fallout for the Dolphins backfield. I think we kind of all thought Jonathan Taylor was going. He didn't go to the Dolphins. We thought that meant Jeff Wilson's season, at least as the goal line back. But right as we were going to air here, Jeff Wilson is on IR. I guess he has to miss at least 3 games then.
4.
4. Is it 4? Okay. Either way, things are messed up in the Colts backfield. Things are now messed up in the Dolphins backfield. Denny, I'll start with you. What does this even mean for the Dolphins? I don't know where to rank Evan Hall. I don't know if Jonathan Taylor's ever going to play another snap for the Colts.
Yeah.
Just start giving us your thoughts.
Well, look, about Miami, first of all, really is not good for my teams that Jeff Wilson is out for the first month of the season. So, nevertheless, there. You have Devon Achane injured, a shoulder injury. I haven't seen an update on him very recently, but Raheem Mostert's the last guy standing, I guess. And then you have Salvin Ahmed, and that's the list right now. I guess maybe the Dolphins, like the Colts, become potential landing spots for Kareem Hunt, who
Jeff Wilson, by the way, he's only out for 4 games so far.
I know.
Yeah. I thought I heard you say the season. You have to remember, I'm having a nervous breakdown.
I may have said something.
We always know that. We know it's always going.
So, so I guess, Mostert, if you're drafting this weekend and you need some early season running back touches to get you through, if from a 0 RB standpoint, this is what we're always kind of chasing. I guess Mostert makes for a pretty nice pick.
Mostert is live. What about Devon Achane? What is even his health status? Again, a guy we talked about a lot in the spring, and since the summer started, they're just honestly, I don't know if they remember they have him. They didn't really talk about him at all in August. He's been battling.
Oh no, Achane, they remember they have him. Once you get to the 3rd quarter of a preseason game, that's when you find out that you have Devon Achane on your roster. Dude was playing deep into these very exhibition level games.
Great. So are we not? Is Raheem Mostert the only one we're drafting? I suppose.
I would say Salvon Ahmed is probably way more likely to see early season touches than A-Chain.
What about, is he more likely than Myles Gaskin? How do we even talk?
No,
they
cut Myles Gaskin, and he got
Okay,
claimed or picked up by I don't remember if he went through waivers or not, but by the Vikings.
Thank God. Yeah, I should probably catch up on those final cuts. I haven't done that. There's a website where you can do that called rotoworld.com.
Check it out.
Trying to do my final rankings. I threw Evan Hall in like the 40s because I just feel like I have no idea how the Colts non-Jonathan Taylor committee is going to shake out. I have no idea if the 4 games Jonathan Taylor misses, it could be more. If Evan Hall will even be valuable. Like, he's not going to be an RB2 off the jump. Is RB like 43, 44, that kind of range too low for Evan Hall, Kyle? And just how in the heck do we approach the Colts backfield? By the way, the rest of the show, we're going to talk about bold predictions. I hadn't said that yet. We're going to get away from these super gross backfields, talk about stuff that's a lot more
I love
fun.
super gross backfield. I could talk about this for 30 minutes.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to 100% dictate like the entire waiver wire run for the first 4 weeks of the season. So like definitely want to get out ahead of it, even though like these are absolute nightmares. I'm taking Evan Hull out of the backs that are in the Indianapolis backfield right now, but I'm doing so with little confidence, and I'm mostly doing so because he seems to have a skill set that I doubt we really see much usage for the other 2 backs. The second one being Zach Moss, who hasn't played in the preseason at all, has a broken arm. I believe he had surgery to help heal the broken arm. Possibly ready for week 1, but we don't have a definitive update on that yet. But Hull was an elite pass catching back in college. I thought he was a fine runner coming out of college, but he had 50 catches for like 550 yards and a handful of scores in his final season at Northwestern. If there's one of the players between him, Deion Jackson, and Zach Moss, who have a very specific thing they can do that is valuable to the backfield, it's Evan Hull. I know for sure, right? I think it's pretty likely that he's the best pass catcher. I think he'll play on 3rd downs. He'll play the 2-minute drill. And then there's some room for him to also play on early downs. So I'm taking Hull. And more so, I'm not taking Deion or Zach Moss because it could absolutely be either one of them who gets the between the tackles work.
So Evan Hall led all of college football last year in running back targets, receptions, and receiving yards. I mean, his production profile is insane. It's really good. I don't think he'll get that early down role, but I do have to note that he has that dog in him. And I think that he could kind of maybe split the early down stuff and play on passing downs. And that's pretty good. That's a pretty good role.
I do wonder if the Colts, without Jonathan Taylor, almost just kind of abandon the traditional run game and go much more in the check down, like as an extension of the run game. And the run game is really just kind of some cannon fodder, Zach Moss, whoever else touches, a lot of checkdowns, some like really well-timed Anthony Richardson designed runs, in addition to the inevitable scrambles. And that, yeah, there's no, besides Evan Hall catching passes, there's just nothing you can rely on in this backfield right now. And
yeah, Hull's not tiny either. You think about like, the guy who led all running backs in catches in college, that dude is 100% playing at New Mexico State. He's 5'8", 185. No, he went to a Big Ten school and was well over 200 pounds. Like, he has at least the size to take on a meaningful amount of between the tackles work and the skill set to be the clear passing down work. Here's a question for you guys. I kind of think Jonathan Taylor's played his last snap in Indy. It seems like this is so fractured beyond repair that they'll eventually just trade him, even if they're like healthy scratching him essentially throughout the year until the trade deadline. Is him not playing better or worse for Anthony Richardson's fantasy value?
Far worse. Far worse.
Oh, I disagree.
No, I think it is far worse. That he needed the opposing defenses to have something else to focus in on other than him. Now they can devote all their game planning, all their scheming attention to shutting down what will probably be a pretty rudimentary passing attack right off the bat. As we just outlined, there's absolutely no one viable to absorb those lost early down touches, those between the tackles touches. I think it's extremely bad for Anthony Richardson to have no Jonathan Taylor.
I think it's a wash. I don't think it matters if Taylor's in the backfield.
It absolutely does. It really does. And I saw the debate erupting several. How could it not matter? Like, I mean,
do you think this moved their win total at all?
No.
No, because it was already so low. It's just it can't go any lower essentially. But like how?
Well, it could, but like
how can a
it could
rookie
go lower.
quarterback who like is universally agreed upon is not ready to be an NFL passer, where at least before the defense had one other thing to think about? One of the only running backs in the league who does matter. Apparently, no running back matters enough to get a first-round pick anymore. Obviously, probably not enough to get a second-round pick. But one of the only opposing running backs that is actually game planned for. And now he doesn't have to be game planned for. It's bad news for Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, I'm not totally. No, the line did not move.
That's totally irrelevant. A team that was already horrible is still horrible, but a setup that was bad has just gotten much worse.
But if the setup got worse, that would mean they're less likely to win games. Like,
they're going to move the total to 2.5. I mean, what are they supposed to do exactly?
They would move it down. If it made a difference, they would move it down.
It does make a difference. It's a flawed metric to evaluate this one.
You tell the sports bettors that then, because I'm going to generally lean towards the many.
Okay, yeah, you're right. It's good for the rookie quarterback to lose his all-pro running back and have Evan Hall. Yeah, it's good.
It's a wash. Like, I think it is truly a wash. I think
very bad.
Maybe it's a marginal loss in that they have less to focus on, but also it's the same thing with like receivers. You know what's really great for a receiver? When you're clearly the best receiver on your team. That makes it very easy to get targets. You know what's really good for Anthony Richardson is when every single play he steps on the field, every single member of his team, he's better than. They're going to be using him more.
Is he? So. we have no idea, actually.
He's better than Zach Moss, I can tell you that.
He's better than Zach. I mean, Denny's better than Zach Moss. I mean,
hey, I've been chastised online for 24 hours for not talking about Zach Moss in my Indianapolis backfield analysis. Come on, man. What are you talking about, Zach Moss?
You're fired.
Stop with this. Apparently, Zach Moss has truthers across the country.
He does. Most of them in the Bills front office.
What's going on? What did I miss? What did I miss with Zach Moss?
I wasn't planning to get upset about the Colts offense.
I was planning to get
10:45. First time I've gotten upset at someone who wasn't Korean in a while.
I didn't like it. Could you tone it down?
I kind of liked it.
I need to tone it down. Yeah, I really need to pack. That's what I need to do. Real quick, before we get on to our bold predictions and final thoughts for the 2023 season, just a reminder that it's Rotoworld Draft Week. It's officially here all week long. We've got drafts, articles, and more from all your favorite Rotoworld talent and special guests. Get all you need to dominate your upcoming fantasy drafts. Go to NBCsports.com/fantasy to see the schedule of all that is happening this week and use promo code CHAMP23, to save 20% off at checkout and receive a $10 Fanatics gift card. That is NBCsports.com/fantasy, promo code CHAMP23 to save 20% off at checkout and receive a $10 Fanatics gift card. Amongst the stuff we've got coming, a live draft with Kyle Dvorchak, Denny Carter, myself, a lot of special guests, John Daigle, Ian Harditz, Scott Pianowski from Yahoo Sports amongst them. I have a final draft weekends, kind of crunch time rankings coming up, which now I have to adjust because I had just moved up Jeff Wilson this morning. Not a joke, actually.
I did that yesterday too. I did the same thing.
Oh yeah, Kyle, can you update our draft guide?
Yeah, I'll do it. Don't worry.
Can you do that? I don't have time to email you after the podcast because I have to pack. So I'm just going to ask you to do that here. Since I was yelling at Kyle, I'm going to let Kyle take the lead with his first bold prediction for the 2023 season. Kyle, what are some of your bold thoughts you have going into week one?
Yeah, I am far from the first person to claim this on their podcast, but I would at least like to throw my hat into the ring to be early on Tony Pollard as the RB1 overall. We will be considering him as the 101 next year. I still think we'll probably end up taking Justin Jefferson over him, but in the way that we're like, if you want to take a running back, McCaffrey's your guy. I know Tony Pollard has that potential. I think he's got a realistic shot at getting there. Last year, the Cowboys ranked 4th in expected fantasy points for their running backs. That's rushing and receiving combined. They ranked 2nd in running back carries inside the 5-yard line. And as you may have known, Zeke got a lot of those. He ranked 3rd in the entire NFL in carries inside the 5-yard line. There is no Zeke. And not only is there no Zeke, they cut Malik Davis. They're putting Deuce Vaughn and Rico Dowdle as the backups to Tony Pollard. If they had kept Zeke, if they had brought in a Kareem Hunt, if they had made any significant moves, I would be a little bit afraid of Tony Pollard's role at the goal line. They haven't used him that way before, even though he's clearly a superior back to Ezekiel Elliott for years on end, but all their actions tell me they finally have come to the light on this one and they recognize this. So not only do I think Tony Pollard has that goal line role, he has a team that wants to, I think, probably play balance. I don't think they're going to be like Denny's talked about. I don't think they're going to be as run heavy in a way that hurts the team as the sort of Mike McCarthy faders have pointed out throughout the offseason. I think they'll probably be a pretty neutral team in a way that is good for the running backs, but doesn't hurt the team overall, at least in the sense of they're not just completely punting off expected points by running the ball. And they're not going to be doing that with Zeke either. Not only do we have the role, we have the elite efficiency, we also have Tony Pollard being an elite pass catcher. In last year, since entering the league, he is top 5 in yards after the catch per reception. He is top 10 in yards per route run among running backs. He's just like 100% the complete package. He has been the complete package as a running back ever since he entered the league. And now finally, 3 to 5 years too late, we're getting it all coming together.
You could argue almost with Tony Pollard that the floor is an Austin Eckler season and that he has more attainable ceilings that, I mean, I guess Austin Eckler does get a lot of goal line carries. It's easy to forget how many touchdowns.
Yeah, that's the thing is like Austin Eckler's not putting 300 carries on the field, but he's getting like as many goal line carries as Derrick Henry or whatever, you know.
I think Tony Pollard, will get more overall carries than Austin Eckler. Hopefully more of them are at the goal line. But I guess either way, an Eckler season is basically like the median outcome for Tony Pollard this year.
Music to my ears, baby.
There we go. Denny, what do you have to add on Tony Pollard, if anything? He's on the cover of our magazine. You can find it at Barnes & Noble, the airport, where I need to be in 20 minutes.
I'm not bullish. I'm not bullish on Pollard.
For what reason?
All right, now I want you two to start yelling at each other.
I know. I'm so about to.
Look, I'm a peaceful man, so I'm not going to yell, but
I will.
Pollard, I don't know, man. He strikes me as the kind of back where in week 4 we're going to be like, oh right, they don't see him like that. Like they're not.
They did even with Ezekiel Elliott.
What kind of back does Rico Dowdle strike you as? Name 3 things about him. 3, 2, 1.
I don't know.
Where did he go to college?
I don't know. That doesn't matter.
I don't know either.
I don't know. I have no clue.
All right, look, real quick.
Tell us where he went to college.
Real quick. Ezekiel Elliott last year in Dallas had 16 rushing attempts inside the 5. That was 3rd in the league behind Jalen Hurts and Jamal Williams. I am not taking those 16 carries and just giving them to Pollard. Like,
give half of them.
I mean, I'm not saying Pollard's going to be a total debacle where people are going to be like, oh God, do I drop Tony Pollard? That's not going to happen. But I do think that like projecting him for this massive workhorse load. And I know you said on your stream yesterday, Kyle, and this is a good point, that I'm going to undercut myself real quick, that he doesn't need a workhorse role. You know, just like a guy like Jamal Charles.
Punting carries on the 50 to Rico Dowdle. That will happen, and I'm okay with it.
Okay, right. And like he strikes me something, not quite the running ability or whatever, but he strikes me a little bit like Jamal Charles in that you knew Jamal could get by but with 15 touches, right? Like 15 touches, he could score 30 fantasy points. So I'm not discounting that. I just think that they're going to mix in other backs to a point where it gets a little dicey.
It's just the thing with Pollard is that though we have already seen it. It's thankfully for a year or two, it was pure projection with Tony Pollard where we kept like waiting for the role to materialize, but it already did. And like maybe it's a Ramondre Stevenson type situation where part of the thesis of the Tony Pollard play this season is that you were going to get another level, and maybe you won't get another level. But even if you don't get another level, he's still just like in the RB 6 to 8 range. But I just agree with Kyle where it's actually pretty easy to envision the next level coming. I don't think RB1, but I really do think RB 3 to 5 is just like a very, very likely outcome for Tony Pollard because they had all summer to add someone. They just didn't do it. Instead, they subtracted someone we thought was going to be the primary backup. And he was already at 200 carries last year. He could get to 220. He only caught 40 passes last year. He could get to 50 like very easily. If he gets 220 carries, which I think is really a pretty reasonable prediction, and 50 receptions, like a man with his talent, you really are looking at a possible RB1 overall.
Sure.
Season.
And yeah, the pass game stuff could make me look just like an absolute idiot. So I'm prepared for that. I just think that the rushing opportunity for Pollard is probably less than we think. But yeah, I mean, if the Cowboys are pass heavy, like Mike McCarthy teams have been, then that really benefits Pollard.
Yeah,
It's
I think
Denny's
we're looking for somewhere in that Jamal Charles, Austin Eckler sort of range of touches where, like, they're this year, Austin Eckler, incredible dog to get more carries or more total touches than Derrick Henry. I don't care. There are like 100 of Derrick Henry's carries we can throw away, and they don't make that much of a difference. What we love about Derrick Henry is he's getting all the goal line work and he's efficient. We're going to get a very similar version of that, I think, with Tony Pollard, in that he's extremely efficient and he probably won't get all the goal line work. Few backs do. But to get an increase, a pretty significant increase in goal line work, and then to make up for the deficit in carries with targets, that's how you surpass like a Derrick Henry. And that's how Jamal Charles was so good. He was like, I think Denny, you said, like he's maybe like pound for pound the best like per touch running back of our lifetime.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
With all this fighting, if we had still been in the office, we would have been required to do a putt off. There's a putting green at NBC Sports headquarters.
I miss it. I want to go back to there.
And then we were supposed to bare-chested wrestle to solve it. That's how you do solve problems there. But we're back. It is Denny's turn to give a bold prediction. I have to jump in with my first lukewarm prediction because I don't do bold predictions, just because it ties into Kyle's, or it's not bold at all. But I do think Bijan Robinson is going to be the RB1 overall, which I think Denny disagrees with that one too. Don't you? I just think the three things that matter at running back are touches, goal line opportunities, and like being a big play threat. Touches, of course, incorporating receptions. We just know he's going to dominate touches. We know he's the goal line back, and they're not going to make Tyler Algier the goal line back. We know he's a huge play threat. We also know he's an already extremely efficient, well-blocked rushing attack before a top 10 running back out there. We know it's the worst division in football, where all four teams have some of the easiest schedules in the league. I think even if Desmond Ridder is bad, they're not going to be in a lot of negative game script. They're going to be able to play their style of football. And I basically just can't think of a single box Bijan Robinson does not check. And with Christian McCaffrey, I don't think he can run that hot health-wise again. And even if he does, I saw the 49ers kind of like throttling off him at the end of last year, partly because he was nursing several minor injuries. Austin Eckler has definitely peaked. I think his receptions will probably fall to the 70 to 75 range this year, which is still extremely good.
Still pretty good.
But I think Bijan honestly has the most clear-cut case to finish as the RB1, and he's my prediction to finish as the RB1, and with Tony Pollard then close behind as the RB2, Kyle. But Denny, any thoughts on Bijan? Who I guess
I do have some.
Denny doesn't like good players anymore. Pretty interesting.
I do think that these exciting running backs are going to be, like you said, like throttled by their coaching staffs. You can't discount Arthur Smith being like, "Hey, Tyler Algier's hot today. We're giving him 15 carries. It doesn't matter." Like, you can see, come on, open your mind's eye, and you can see this happening, okay? And I mean, and this is all from the gut, okay? I can't cite any stats here, except, well, I can cite one. No play caller over the past, I think, 5 years has used their RB2 more than Arthur Smith. That doesn't mean that his RB1 has not been good.
It was because he didn't have an RB1 is why they were using the RB2 so much, though.
All right. Well, nevertheless, I mean,
is this just Smith with the Falcons? Because obviously Smith with Tennessee.
Maybe you heard of him.
Yeah, there's this little guy called the Big Dog. Big Dog. Ooh, Big Dog.
I believe it bleeds into Tennessee.
I would believe you said that because his time with the Falcons, like they legit, like we're getting Caleb Huntley out there for touches.
Yeah.
And, like,
so that's because that's what happens when you're starting running back as rookie Tyler Algier, though.
All right. So Arthur Smith said 2 weeks ago, he said, we're doing a hot hand approach in the backfield. If one guy gets hot, we're going to keep giving him the ball behind a really good offensive line against a very soft schedule, by the way. The Saints and the Falcons have the two easiest schedules by far and away in the whole league. So they're going to be in position to establish it to Arthur Smith's heart's content. And I think that Bijan is going to have some blow up games, and I'm going to get some really, really hideous mentions on Twitter. Okay. But sure. I also think Algier he's not going away. Cordarrelle Patterson, not going away.
I kind of thought he wouldn't even make the team, but he did.
He made it. So I I think Robinson will be used primarily as the team's pass catching back, which is good.
They did not. No. They did not.
That's
not even the
Falcons. That's all Arthur Smith has talked about for 3 months.
They didn't need to talk about the early down stuff. The only question mark would maybe be catching passes. The NFL. They didn't need to talk about Bijan on early downs because that really is just like a certain fact. Denny, Tyler Algier will quote never get the hot hand.
I think he will.
Yeah, and I will be crying because I will be bankrupt, and I hope you're happy about that.
Yeah, to me, for the capital they spent on Bijan, it would be like a historic anomaly outlier for him to not be like pushing for a league high in touches. Like the guys who are going this early in the NFL draft, I mean, throughout the course of time have just been immediate workhorses. Like you look at what we got from Saquon, from
his
Zeke.
two most immediate comps are Saquon and Zeke, yeah, and they both did it. And
even
so,
like
science,
even looking at like what Leonard Fournette got as a rookie, or what, like, you know, you look back throughout the course of history, even more recent history when running backs are a little more devalued, even pushing that out to like the top 15 picks, you still see that every one of these teams that does something that we think is kind of crazy, spending this much capital on running back, they commit to the bit 100%. So to me, like I definitely get a little touch and go with Arthur Smith, you know, as someone who
he has no track record whatsoever of not featuring top 8 rookie skill player picks. So I don't know what you guys
I get
about.
that.
That's what I'm saying. Have you guys been watching?
You don't understand. Those are passing game weapons, Denny. There's a huge difference.
I agree. I don't love what we've seen from Arthur Smith throughout my experiences with him. However, it's not enough to scare me off from such a strong data set of these top 10 picks going out and absolutely nuking. That's what it is to me, is like, yeah, I like think Arthur Smith is annoying with how he uses his players sometimes, but it would be such a catastrophic outlier for Bijan to like really, for him to like not get to 300 touches, that I'm not worried enough.
All right. I mean, I get that. I will also say that Kyle Pitts was losing snaps and routes to Parker Hesse last year. Okay. So Arthur Smith is a guy, he doesn't care about draft capital. He doesn't care about good players. He doesn't care about any of that. He wants to score 17 points and win the game. And I don't want to spend my third overall pick on Bijan Robinson, because that's really what you're going to have to do if you want him.
Use your second overall pick on him. That's what you do. That's how you do it. Denny will be installing a putting green in his backyard, by the way, if Tyler Algier hits this year.
I will be. It'll be nice. I'll invite you guys over.
Please, I would like to, because I really need more golf lessons. As you saw, I don't even know how to putt. Yeah, I need a golf lesson real bad. Denny, we're overdue to get a bold prediction from the master. You've already had plenty of bold predictions actually in this show. What is an official Denny bold prediction though? Other than Bijan Robinson is washed.
Oh, stop. Oh my God.
No, he's a good, Denny said it. He's a good satellite back. He's a good third down guy.
Bijan is washed.
He will be a good pass catching back. Okay, look, I take no pleasure in saying this, but I follow the numbers. And so I have to say the Najee Harris is going to finish as a top 12 running back.
I'm getting a little scared about this one, I will admit.
I hate that. I hate it, but he's going to score a lot of touchdowns. He's going to be in a way more positive offensive environment. He has a quarterback who is seemingly pushing the ball downfield. We've seen that a lot in the preseason. That's good. Scares defenses off a little bit. He's not going to face 10 players in the box on every single carry. I think that Jaylen Warren being mixed in is not necessarily like a horrific thing. Now, top 12 is a bold take because it's going to require a lot of inside the 10 touches, a lot of goal line work, but that's what he's going to get. So if we think, and I think that the Steelers are due for massive regression in the touchdown area this year, then Najee Harris is the natural beneficiary for that. So yeah, I mean, I didn't draft him anywhere, and I won't, but he's going to be good for fantasy.
My main worry with Najee Harris is just that we're underrating the single most important data point from his 2022 which was that he was playing with a Lisfranc injury. I don't know why he was doing this. Like why anyone thought this was a good idea.
Right.
Yeah,
I
he
do
wasn't
think
good as a rookie either.
That's the thing. That's the thing is we don't really know. I don't really know how far he had to fall, but it is possible that the single most important data point from last year was that he was playing with a Lisfranc injury, and we just like totally ignored that fact all summer and are getting super excited about like 25-year-old undrafted free agent out of Oklahoma State, and that it could have been just a total 1-year blip for Jaylen Warren. I actually don't think that is the case. I am still more worried about Najee falling than I am rising. I have 0 Najee Harris shares whatsoever in any of my managed leagues because I do think Jaylen Warren is probably going to consolidate third down work because this is not a smart approach. Even if Najee Harris is like improved this year, as we've seen, it's not really ever a smart approach to have like an every snap running back. And I do think Jaylen Warren can probably consolidate, but I also do see the counter case that Denny is making.
Yeah, and I will say, and I know Kyle's about to vomit all over himself from all this positive Najee Harris talk. I don't blame you. I mean, I haven't done it at all, but upon further reflection, could be catastrophically wrong here. He's going as the RB10. That's his ADP, by the way. I mean, now that's a normie ADP. Now,
so Denny thinks he's going to be a bust as the RB12.
Well, but for sickos, right? And if you're in sicko leagues, you're getting him at RB20, 22. Okay,
not an exaggeration.
So in that way, he would be a value. So I do want to just make that differentiation there.
I think like the positive outcome for Najee still isn't that useful. He reminds me of whenever you can say, so-and-so was a QB1 last year. He played 17 games and he was the QB 16 in points per game. Of course he got to the QB1. Like that is the most likely positive sort of outcome is that Najee is out there churning out 15 half PPR points per game every week, not giving you a strong ceiling because we already saw last year, once they moved away from the decrepit Ben Roethlisberger offense, even if Kenny Pickett wasn't great, it meant they were not throwing to the running backs in the way that we saw as Najee was with a rookie. On top of that, you have someone who is a far better pass catcher than him in his own backfield. I think the targets aren't going to be there like we want them to be. You really are needing him to get 300 carries, and the offense gets them into the goal line situations more, and that's how he gets there. I think he could rack up 13, 14 touchdowns, still be a usable pass catcher, and get a lot of carries. I think even that is like it's a what do you win when you win situation where, yeah, he could beat me. He could beat his ADP quite clearly. It'll be like the Brandon Cooks, you guys will never believe this. He's beaten his wide receiver 30 ADP 3 years in a row as the wide receiver 25 or whatever.
The ADP 1.7er is what we call him. Always overperforms by 1.7 draft slots. We'll be right back with more bold predictions following a word from our sponsor, who is us. Looking for a way to start your final Sunday before the NFL regular season? Look no further than MLB Sunday Leadoff exclusively on NBC's Peacock. This week, we are featuring 2 teams in the thick of the National League playoff race as the Philadelphia Phillies travel to American Family Field in Milwaukee, Wisconsin to face the NL Central leading Milwaukee Brewers. Catch the action live at 12:30 p.m. Eastern only on Peacock. And do not forget, find all your favorite NBC sports shows on Amazon Music. Just head to Amazon.com/NBC Sports. Again, I shouldn't have to say that the Brewers are leading the NL Central, but it's neither here.
That's your punishment.
It is neither here nor there. I was saying we're going to go, Kyle. We're going to go to Denny because Denny wasn't getting it. We didn't let Denny talk much. We were just yelling at him the whole first half of the show.
I kind of like this new format.
Yeah, I was yelling at Kyle, actually. We should have maybe let Kyle go for it. But Denny, we need more molten hot takes from Denny Carter, CD Carter 13 on X.
Yeah, God. Thank you for mentioning the site's name.
Sorry.
Calvin Ridley, top 5 receiver.
Okay, thank God. I thought you were going to say bust. I was like, Denny, I honestly, how am I going to get home from this wedding in Virginia? We will not have enough money for a return.
No. Listen, I kind of dismissed it because I just think of that Doug Peterson offense as one that kind of disperses the ball around, no matter what. But I'm pretty sure Ridley is head and shoulders above the other pass catchers in this offense, and sometimes you just have to acknowledge that. And I've come around a couple weeks ago. I was reading a Jaguars beat reporter talking about the preseason training camp, And I'm sorry, like there's no scenario, I should say almost no scenario, in which like Christian Kirk gets in the way of Ridley or Evan Ingram gets in the way. Like that's not happening. And then Rich Rebar sort of solidified that, last week by pretty much convincing me that the Jags are going to be among the pass heaviest teams this year. So lots of volume, good player, good offense. So give me Ridley as top 5.
I think like at a gut instinctual level, I just agree with it. Or I never got Calvin Ridley quite as high in my rankings as I've been drafting him. I think I finished with him as the wide receiver 16, but I've recently dropped Christian Kirk out of the top 36, aka I don't believe he's even a wide receiver 3. I think I have like the wide receiver 37 or 38. Could be way too significant of a penalty. I recently moved down Evan Ingram behind Pat Freiermuth. I can't say I feel super great about that, but the way I look at those guys last year is that they did their job in 2022 for a team that needed veteran, reliable targets with a rookie quarterback on the rise, but that their job is just going to be different in 2023 and that all their assignments have changed now that the alpha is in town. And I didn't get him in the top 12, Calvin Ridley. I don't think he'll be top 5, but I do think that we're going to get something much closer to the prime Calvin Ridley we saw in 2020 than the Calvin Ridley we saw in 2021 and then did not see at all in 2022. Kyle, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if we get much, like if you say we get much closer to that prime 2020, that dude was a baller. He led the league in air yards. He was an elite receiver, both in yards per route run and his share of the team's offense. And it was like a fine offense in terms of efficiency, but it was like the twilight years of Matt Ryan. It wasn't quite the corpse Matt Ryan, but it was like far from the MVP season that propelled him. And I think Trevor Lawrence, it's for me safe to say Trevor Lawrence is simply a better quarterback than what we got from that best season of Calvin Ridley's quarterback play in Matt Ryan. And I think the ceiling for Trevor Lawrence is that he looks like Joe Burrow-esque in his 3rd year. So I'm totally fine with this. And if you count, the 5th place is top 5. I really feel good about the top 4 receivers we have in Kupp, Hill, Chase, Jefferson. That 5th spot is very much up for grabs. I think that spot is like an easy spot to sneak into in that, like, sure, AJ Brown could do it, but I think Diggs could do it. I think a lot of guys could do it. So even just like the sort of nomenclature of the getting into the top 5, there's a 5th spot that's up for grabs. I think Ridley could do it. I like this one. I'm glad we all kind of came together on this one after a rather contentious show.
Yes, I'm happy. Sorry. I'm happy we can rally around Calvin Ridley.
I'm going to piggyback off Denny's too with my second lukewarm take because I don't do bold takes. I think Stephon Diggs is going to outpoint Cooper Kupp. I actually also think CeeDee Lamb is probably going to outpoint Cooper Kupp. And I just think as 2021 gets further in the rearview mirror, it's going to become clearer that it was just an outlier campaign. Even though the targets did mostly transition to 2022, he didn't hold up on those targets. It was not a particularly great offensive approach. The offense wasn't good. The thing, it's just still going to be a really, really bad overall offensive environment for the Rams. And I think instead of like tripling down on Cooper Kupp, it's become like an even more conservative offense. They're going to be like really, I think, back recommitted to the run. I think they're going to be more committed to spreading the ball around. Because again, Cooper Kupp was open every single play in the year 2021. Really cool stuff from the rest of the NFL, leaving him wide open every single play.
It was frustrating when you were playing against the fantasy manager who had Kupp because you're like, so you're just going to let this guy run free in the middle of the field.
So Cooper Kupp is now on the wrong side of 30 with an increasingly lengthy injury history, like a few serious orthopedic injuries. And I just don't see how that is going to remain the approach, the 10 to 15 Cooper Kupp targets. I still think he's going to be a wide receiver 1. But I think Stephon Diggs' role is his upside is just more locked in. And in a similar situation to Cooper Kupp, where he's like the sun, the moon, and the stars of his passing offense, but it's just a far better overall passing offense. And he just has a far better durability history, still a far better overall offensive setup. And CeeDee Lamb made that tier jump last year. I don't think he's going to go down a tier. And I just think that 2021 is going to look more and more like an outlier for Cooper Kupp. And I just lost what remains of my life savings by betting against Cooper Kupp. But Kyle, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the only problem with this is that last year, Kupp, the offense was like way worse. It was far less efficient.
We're talking way.
Yeah, even like obviously just looking at the Stafford games, the Stafford Cup games, throw out the other ones. They were far less efficient, but it just didn't affect Cup in the slightest. Like he was as productive as he was in the year before. And, I'm going to give McVay some credit on being mostly a smart coach and say, like, it's really difficult for him to say, let's spread the ball out around more when that means getting Van Jefferson and 98-pound Tutu Atwell more targets. Like if they really committed in the draft, like taking a first-round receiver, they didn't have a first-round pick, a second-round receiver, or something like that, a receiver that we thought could really step in week one, I'd say, yeah, they have avenues. Or if they spent some of the money that they absolutely did not have in free agency on a new receiver, sure. If they found other avenues to diverting targets from Kupp, that is not a bad idea. This offense looked really good when they could get Odell Beckham involved or something like that. They just don't have that choice. And I don't think they'll commit to the run game in that, like, McVay is smart and knows that, like, that's not how you win football games. But I think that's the out to him losing, is that the offense craters and they also pass less. Because that was really what was driving Kupp, is that he was still the engine of the offense. And no matter how bad they got in 2022, they didn't stop passing. Even when Stafford was his, like, man, we're chasing a pick six record with Stafford. I think we were going to get there. I think we are going to get there.
There's still time. He's going to do it this year.
I think he is literally close to the career pick six record or something.
He's probably not the way some of those plumbers in the 70s, like, were just throwing it.
They didn't pass enough though.
They didn't.
But anyway,
wasn't there.
That's a good point.
Anyway, even as it was very clear the offense was like borderline dysfunctional, the offensive line was falling apart. Kupp was the engine and his stats held up. It wasn't as meaningful for their win column number, but it didn't change the way that he was clearly like the wide receiver one overall.
The stat I just made up is that Terry Bradshaw threw 8 pick six in his 4 Super Bowl victories. And it didn't matter at all. They still easily won. You want to hear the most non-predictive stat in the world, by the way? You want to hear like a super non-predictive stat?
I do.
How many 1,000-yard seasons has 30-year-old Cooper Kupp had in his career?
2.
Denny Carter?
2.
It is 2.
2.
Yeah, it's 2. Yeah. It's 2.
No, so a more also actually a completely not predictive stat. Stafford is 3 pick sixes away from tying the career record.
Who has the career record? John Kitna or something?
Jeff No, George. This is so obvious. No.
Oh, Favre.
No, this is
Favre.
Obviously, it's Favre. Yes, it's Favre.
Okay. Oh my God, hell yeah! That the party has started. Actually,
he's 3 away, and I want to say he got like 2 last year in the first 8 games. So like we were probably another season away. But hey, it's a little bit of run good, and we could have gotten there. He's chasing it this year, baby.
The party had not started until Brett Favre like audibled into like some hot route, and like the defense easily picked it up.
There was a game actually. There was a game where the Packers played the Rams. I think in Favre's last year in Green Bay, where he could have easily thrown like 7 pick sixes. I remember that.
My favorite moment of Favre's career, I believe it might have been his final pick as a Jet, or final play as a Jet, where he did a really elaborate audible and I think a hurry up and threw it, and it was like a slant directly to the defender. I can't remember if it was a pick six, but. And like the Jets had like a kind of remote playoff hope if they had won in week 17 that year. And he just like totally torpedoed it.
Well,
it was amazing. Nevertheless, Kyle, I can't remember. Have we gotten a second bold prediction from you? I don't think we have.
Yeah, I don't think so. I'll let her rip. We talked about this a little bit on the happy hour, but I'll go bold with it here. George Kittle, I won't say he goes tight end 1, but he does reclaim the tight end 2 behind Travis Kelce. I think we're getting an incredible discount on very arguably the best tight end of my lifetime, even with Travis Kelce in the conversation. I mean, look at the past 20 years of data. George Kittle ranks first among all tight ends in their careers of the past 20 years in yards after the catch per reception. He ranks first in yards per route run, third in targets per route run. He also has 3 of the 12 highest yardage games of a tight end in the history of the NFL. Of the top 15 highest yardage games, no one appears on that list more than once outside of Kittle, who appears 3 times. Like, his highs are so incredibly high and his talent is so incredibly high that, like, there are, quote, mouths to feed. Like, we are getting I'm going to say a quarterback upgrade, but it is definitely like more ambiguous, less stable, maybe you could say, than Jimmy Garoppolo, because our sample size on Brock Purdy is small. I'll admit that. But we're getting such an incredible discount on George Kittle. And I think it's very clear that he has the talent and the elite single game upside to patch together the tight end 2 overall season. So yeah, I'm going to say tight end 2 overall for George Kittle.
Just real quick to the Zoomers. Kittle does not hold a candle to Rob Gronkowski. Denny Carter, on to you.
I don't know about that.
Can't not hold a candle is rough. Gronk's great, so I get it. But
that was probably a bit of an exaggeration, but
Gronk is a Brady creation.
Oh, come on.
All right, I'm in for this take. I'm in.
No. Well, let's hear his take on George Kittle, because I know Denny thinks Mark Andrews is maybe not just the tight end 2. Maybe you weren't dabbling with Mark Andrews tight end 1, are you?
I've done that for the last 3 years, so why not do it again?
Quadruple down, I suppose.
Here's what I'm hearing, guys. This time it counts with Mark.
It does count. Never count.
Yeah, no, Kittle's amazing, and in any other offense, he would probably be the greatest tight end of all time. But Kyle Shanahan doesn't like scoring points, doesn't like gaining yards.
No.
Outsmarts himself at every turn. So George Kittle will never be remembered in that way. If he gets unleashed a little bit this year, and if Brock Purdy stays under center for the whole year, I think Kyle could be onto something here. I'm not, and Kittle's just kind of blah. He's just kind of there in drafts. Like I don't know anybody who targets Kittle who's like, I gotta have me some Kittle. It's I got to. Well, yes. Besides Kyle, but it's always like, oh, I got to get on Pitts, on Goddard, whatever. These great offense, great talents, and everything. Oh yeah, right. Kittle, get the offensive lineman, but he's he's really good. I think with a little good fortune, he could end up being an amazing value.
We're gonna try to each do one more bold take. I'll do one final lukewarm take, by the way. This is truly as lukewarm as it gets.
Can I get in one more Kittle thing?
You can.
I don't want to hear about his blocking stuff. Like literally last year, highest route participation in the NFL of any tight end. Of the plays he was on the field.
That's bad then. Why didn't he get targeted more then?
He did get targeted more. Like where are we erasing his 7? He was probably third in receiving yards, I'd imagine. He literally ran the most routes of his team's routes of any tight end in the NFL. In terms of the passing plays he was on the field for, he ran 3. He blocked on 3% more of them than Travis Kelce, a very nominal number. Mark Andrews goes out and literally never blocks, and I'd kill for that. But Travis Kelce doesn't do that either. And we also want our tight ends to be good enough, primarily run blockers, because they want to be out there for play action stuff, for red zone stuff. And that's how we get run good George Kittle touchdowns last year, is not because complete randomness. It's because you can put him out there for high leverage situations, and he's more valuable there.
Yeah, I should say, Kittle was 8th in tight end pass routes last year, and so it's not like we're getting a guy who's running 12 routes a game, like that's like Chiga Okonkwo type stuff. But so that's why I think that Kyle's take is definitely in the range of outcomes.
My final lukewarm take is I think we're all expecting more Eagles passing volume this year, and it was very, very vogue over the summer to be like, DeVonta Smith could finish ahead of AJ Brown. There's just so little difference between the two of them and their target shares and their reception totals. And my take is that any increased Eagles passing game volume is going to AJ Brown, and that last year was DeVonta Smith's ceiling. We still have not seen AJ Brown's ceiling either in the Eagles offense or just in the NFL, and that they are not nearly as close as we would like to believe. And some people, not everyone believes this, I'm trying to say, but this idea that it was almost just an accident of history that it happened to be AJ Brown with the more yards or whatever last year, and that the target shares are similar, but anytime the volume increases, it doesn't increase evenly across the board. It always ends up going to the primary weapons. And I think AJ Brown will comfortably finish ahead of DeVonta Smith. Again, this is not a hot take, I'm aware. Well, I haven't bought that at all, that it could be DeVonta Smith this year.
Sure. But I do think that, like Kittle, AJ Brown is sort of the forgotten man among receivers. He's going his wide receiver 8. All I ever hear about is Diggs, Lamb going ahead of him, Garrett Wilson, Amon-Ra going after him. I don't think I've read one piece of analysis on AJ Brown this year, because the analysis goes like this. He's the only guy in the NFL who could have a top 10 season on 100 targets. That's the analysis on AJ Brown.
Denny, we're getting close to out of time. We need one more final molten hot take. I like the way you've been sneaking in extra hot takes by disagreeing with our takes, by the way.
I didn't mean to.
Not hot takes, bold predictions. We're not hot take artists.
No, we don't do that. I didn't go to college for that. So, yeah, my last one is that Jahan Dotson scores more fantasy points than Terry McLaurin.
Whoa.
And I'm not saying by a lot, and I'm not saying Terry McLaurin like takes a clear back seat, but I think that we're looking at, like a wide receiver 1A, 1B situation. Like, I know we just talked about the Eagles, but like the Eagles last year with AJ Brown and Smith. So, Dotson, when he finally got like truly healthy last year for the final 5 games of the season, okay, because he struggled with some injuries in the middle of the season. He sort of came back. He was taken out of games. He missed some some of the parts of those games. Anyway, last 5 games, Terry McLaurin had 57 expected fantasy points. Jahan Dotson had 56. And
he's not some guy. He's a first round pick.
No, he's good. Like he's legit. McLaurin is going to enter the season with a toe injury that could drag on, could maybe not. We'll see. I think the upgraded quarterback. I think Eric Bieniemy, like bringing a modernized offense to Washington, which is just weird to even think about. After years of Ron Rivera just running a 1980s style offense, I do think that Dotson has a shot to be the wide receiver 1 for the Commanders.
I like that. Terry McLaurin is the kind of guy we'll just like how many different times can we bet on Terry McLaurin?
Yeah, right.
And not that he's like a bad player. He's clearly a above average player, but it's like how many different times are we going to bet on this guy? Kyle, what is your final hot take for the 2020? Excuse me, bold prediction. I don't know why am I saying hot take. We're not hot takers. What is your final bold prediction for the 2023 NFL season?
Javonte Williams, RB1 says an inbound. Sean Payton, we know how much he loves to use his running backs, but to put some context to it, in his final 5 years with the Saints, they were 10th in running back expected fantasy points from rushing and first in expected fantasy points from receiving, and they ranked extremely well in points over expected on both those metrics, though, 1st and 6th. So not only did they give their running backs the ball an insane amount, they did really well in them. Some of that is talent for sure, but some of that is scheme. So to try and raise the talent, I moved back to the previous 5-year block, mostly to crop out Alvin Kamara, because I think Alvin Kamara is so good that when you look at his usage, when you look at his efficiency, you'll say, you give him some credit that some of that is him. Looking at the previous 5-year block of Sean Payton running back usage, they were 11th in expected fantasy points on the ground, and once again, first in expected fantasy points through the air to their entire backfield. And now you're going to a Denver team where I think it's understandable that part of his plan that we've talked about to, I don't say hide Russell Wilson, but to hide the flaws of Russell Wilson is probably to play balanced in a way that me as a Marvin Mims and hopefully Jerry Jeudy's healthy kind of a lover will get frustrated at times. But I have paired that with also loving Javonte Williams, meaning I love all these stupid Broncos. And since entering the league on all running backs at least 150 carries, Javonte ranks 1st in missed tackles forced per attempt, 10th in yards after contact, and 15th in explosive run rate. He is truly the complete package as a between the tackles explosive runner. He's not a bad pass catcher either, and we know that is a staple of the Sean Payton offense is throwing to his running backs. So I think the biggest sweat is that if Javonte goes out and completely cedes all of the pass catching work to Samaje Perine, it's possible. I don't think it's entirely likely, but I think it's possible. That's how we fail. But I think we've locked up a really strong role between the tackles and really strong efficiency between the tackles and the upside. The way we get to an RB9 finish or whatever is Javonte makes the most of what is still a really strong pass catching skill set he has and pushes Samaje Perine to more of a pure backup role.
Did you guys leave any takes in the holster? Denny, you can weigh in on Javonte Williams.
I'm in. God, I'm so in on that take. God, it makes sense to me. It just makes a lot of sense because Javonte, he's healthy apparently. Apparently he's okay. It's an Adrian Peterson situation with his knee, and so we have that going for us. Sean Payton, Kyle, those stats were amazing because they just confirm that Sean Payton is not messing around with running backs. Like he's going to feed them in the passing game, importantly, and the running game. We've seen this happen before where Sean Payton has taken nobodies and made them legit fantasy options. Javonte Williams is actually good. I don't know if that totally matters in every situation, but getting him in like the 7th round or whatever right now, I mean, sometimes I'm like, wait, what? Did I like miss some news? What's going on?
He's out for the year, but yeah.
Oh, well.
Oh, okay. I'll take him in the 9th round then. Hold on.
The nobodies you referenced, Tim Hightower sends his regards, Denny.
I'm sorry, Tim. I apologize.
We're essentially out of time. Did you guys have any left in your notes that you just got to get out there? And
I wouldn't do that to you, Pat, because you need to pack.
No, we missed our flight.
Oh, no.
No.
Okay.
Do need to pack pretty badly, though. But that was a good show. It's a good way to put a bow on it. Good way to put a bow on draft preparation season. August 31st, we'll all be drafting all week. I still have 3 drafts left, I think, which is going to be hard because I am going to a wedding. But, it's going to be drafting season. That's why you have to keep it locked to Rotoworld.com. That's why you have to get the Rotoworld draft guide. I have to get my free last-minute rankings, Matthew Berry's rankings on the site. Check out everything we did this week. We have so many live mock drafts. We went on the Fantasy Football Happy Hour, Kyle, Denny, and I, to give some at-large thoughts really on each position, kind of our approach at all 4 of the main fantasy positions this year. There's so much good stuff on the site, including never-ending blurbs. This news is still happening, as we saw with Jeff Wilson going on injured reserve this morning. So keep it locked to Rotoworld.com. For Denny Carter, for Kyle Dvorchak, I'm Patrick Daugherty. We'll be back next week in the regular season.